Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to tonight's stream. I hope you're all doing well, as we are, 3 days away from the beginning of the Belgian Grand Prix weekend, and of course, this Sunday will be the return of racing. Cannot wait for it this weekend at Spa. There is some rain, unfortunately, scheduled for this weekend's race. Hopefully, though, it's not too bad, or anywhere near as bad as it was 12 months ago. But, yeah, very happy that Formula 1 it's going to be back, very, very soon. But in tonight's stream, we're not going to be covering that just yet. We're going to be getting into a couple topics to do with some things. Well, firstly, something that's happened during the summer break. Of course, the Oscar Piastri Mclaren Alpine saga. And also get into a topic about a certain driver. Now, before I get into the stream properly, I just want to kind of announce that I think I said on my community tab when I announced earlier that I was going to be streaming for this evening, I said that the topics would be, Piastri, the Piastri saga, and then the other two topics would be Mick Schumacher and Pierre Gasly. Unfortunately, I've had to cut the Pierre Gasly one out of this stream. The reason is because I want to do a bit of a more in-depth, longer topic about him, and I just didn't have the time to get that set up, and I need to really flesh out what I want to talk about when it comes to Gasly and get the the points I want to get across correctly, and I just need more time to do that. So unfortunately, that will not be a topic on tonight's stream, but I will be doing it in the future, say in 2 or 3 weeks' time probably is when I'll do it properly for you guys and then upload it as a recorded video. But yeah, tonight what we're doing, or what I'm doing, is I'm going to detail the Oscar Piastri Mclaren Alpine saga and look at just what happened, really who is to maybe blame for what happened from, say, Alpine's side, and just how it, who really triggered this all happening, and then also get into quickly how I think it will result, what the end result will be of this whole dilemma. And then with Mick Schumacher, I'm going to get into whether he has shown us so far that he can succeed in Formula 1 and have a properly successful F1 career based off what we've seen so far, and look at just where maybe he needs to improve or where he's lacking at the moment in Formula 1 and compared to his teammate Kevin Magnussen. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing this evening. May get into some other things as well, we'll see. Maybe if I could find a video on YouTube, try and react to another piece of content, maybe an opposing view to whatever views I put out there in this stream or in these videos that I'm going to record. And just so you guys know again, just like the stream that I did on Friday, which, by the way, if you're wondering why that stream on Friday is not on the channel anymore, it's because it was copyright claimed and it's not visible anymore. So that's why you can't see it. And the reason is because I think there was a couple clips in there where, they decided to claim it, which, to be honest, I'm not too bothered about it because the real meat and potatoes of that stream has been uploaded as recorded videos. The Sainz video that came out a few days ago and the Ricciardo video that came out yesterday, that's pretty much what happened in the stream, so I'm not too bothered about that. By the way, if you want to check those videos out, go to the description and you can find the links to those videos. The Carlos Sainz video, why he's not an elite F1 driver, why Daniel Ricciardo only has himself to blame for his woes at McLaren, and also a video I did about 2 or 3 weeks ago on Lando Norris and why he won't have the F1 career that you think he will. So yeah, that is the videos in the description. So if you guys want to go check that out after the stream, then go for it. But just want to remind you guys that just like the stream on Friday, I'm going to do these topics and record them, and then these topics will be uploaded as recorded videos at a later date. The Piastri saga topics I'm going to do in a few moments will be uploaded tomorrow at 6 PM UK time. And then the Mick Schumacher topic will probably be uploaded next week. Because obviously after tomorrow, there's no space really before the Belgian Grand Prix to get it uploaded onto the channel. So yeah, I'm going to upload it probably next Wednesday, maybe, or maybe the week after. We'll see. But it will definitely come out in the next couple of weeks as a recorded video. And the reason I'm, doing videos this way now is because, one, my editing software just crashed and burned, which I explained on Friday. But also, it's easier for me to get the topics I talk about and get those recorded videos out quicker if I do it this way, because then I can record it all in like a batch in one stream and then upload it at a later date, and then that keeps you guys entertained on the channel whilst I'm busy doing other things. So yeah, that's what the plan is for tonight. And I hope you're all doing well, no matter what time it is in your part of the world, no matter what part of the world you're from or what you're doing at the minute, whether you're at work still or not. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you're from, hopefully you're all having as good a day as possible. And hopefully you're all excited for the return of Formula 1 this weekend. And not just this weekend, but obviously we've got a triple header. This weekend it's Spa. Next weekend we go to Zandvoort. And then the following weekend we go to Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. So I'm sure there will be plenty to talk about over the next, say, 3 weeks or so in regards to the races that are coming up. But yeah, we're going to first get into the Oscar Piastri saga and just, how it all happened, who was to blame, and how I think this will all shake out in the end. I'm just going to quickly, though, guys, blow my nose because I've got a bit of a cold today, so just give me a second quick. Right, that should be okay, or okay-ish for now. Also, yeah, apologies for the stream going live late. I went live at, 6:30 instead of 6? That's because, I, I had dinner right before the stream, so I wanted to, make sure I had that finished so I feel a lot better rather than doing this stream on an empty stomach, because I have done that before, and it can be quite painful towards the end, and yeah, it's just something that I don't think I would, want to do. So, yeah, let's get into this Oscar Piastri stuff. And quickly, I want to say a couple things. One, whilst I'm talking about this, like I said, by the way, sorry if the stream froze there. I'm not sure if it did. My OBS, I think, froze briefly. So I'm not sure if the stream froze. Let me just read out this comment, by the way, by Paul James Squibb. Says, yay, Chazza HD. Loving these F1-centered streams. The races, the drama, the community. Awesome coverage, Chazza. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, it's great to be, doing this. To be honest, I really enjoy doing the streams way more than anything else when it comes to YouTube. I just enjoy being live on the channel. And I have a lot more fun doing this when I get to talk more off the cuff. I mean, I always have like a direction of what I want to talk about and present my arguments for certain things and all of that. And obviously there's always going to be, for like a watch along, there's going to be a direction that the show goes in, if you know what I mean, in terms of how I do each part of the day. But I do prefer talking off the cuff a lot more than scripted. And yeah, I just love streaming, and that's why I think the majority of the content on this channel by far is streams. But what was I going to say? Yeah, whilst I'm talking about this topic, guys, make sure to post in the live chat your comments, about what I'm having to say. What do you think of the situation? Do you agree or disagree with what I'm having to say? As I say what I say, let me know in the live chat. And also, yeah, after we finish this topic, I will try to see if there is a video out there that I can react to with you guys that is of an opposing view to to what I have had to say in this little topic here. But before I do, let me just read out a couple comments. White Flag Ray says, "Look, I look forward to your upcoming video entitled 21 Million Reasons Why Danny Rick Only Has Himself to Blame." Maybe I should have titled it that, but that video has actually come out, in case you don't know. The Ricciardo video I did, it came out yesterday. There is a link below in the description if you want to watch that. But yeah, maybe as a joke I should have put that. Super chat from Sam Tingy. Thanks for the super chat, by the way, for £4.49. Says Piastri won't have a seat next year. Alpine sign Ricciardo and Patricio O'Ward goes to McLaren. I mean, I will get into how I think this situation will shake out, but I don't think that's going to happen. But you never know in Formula One. We've had mental things happen. I mean, nobody thought Kevin Magnussen would be back in Formula One. For 2022, we all assumed that he was done with Formula One, not because he didn't want to race in Formula One anymore, but, you know, maybe Formula One was done with him when he did leave. And, yeah, also, if you look at some of the driver moves a couple of years ago in 2020 for 2021, they were quite surprising, or maybe surprising in just how or when they were announced. You know, Ricciardo going to McLaren, Sainz going to Ferrari, and Vettel then going to Aston Martin. I don't think anyone would have predicted that at the time. So, yeah, you never know. There's definitely, that could definitely happen. There is a possibility of what you said happening, but realistically, I don't think that is going to happen. But we'll see. Seemingly, Zach Brown has signed about 1 million drivers to a contract to race for McLaren next season, so we will see what happens. But let's, I think, now get into this topic. So the big story, guys, over the summer break has been the Oscar Piastri McLaren Alpine saga, and in this video, what we're going to get into is just how the saga happened, what has happened so far in the summer break, look at who is to blame, I guess you could say, for how this has all happened, and maybe from Alpine's side, but also look at just where this situation is headed for the future and how I think it will all play out eventually. So, coming into the summer break, it was assumed that Alpine were going to remain with the same lineup for 2023 that they've obviously had for this year for 2022, even though they had Oscar Piastri on their books. And the reason that is because Alpine this season have been very competitive. Their car's been good, but I wouldn't say it's been as great, though, or the biggest reason as to why they're fourth currently in the Constructors' Championship. I think the main reason is the two drivers, Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, performing at such a high level and really being, you know, so consistent with their points finishes. A lot of the times, both Alpines in the points and outscoring and helping, you know, the team outscore McLaren, their main rivals, for that fourth place. So it was assumed that for next year it would be Alonso and Ocon at Alpine. And I think we were all right in expecting that, because if Alonso wanted to stay, why would you possibly change this lineup when it is working so well for you? Well, right after the race in Hungary a few weeks ago, everything got very, very dramatic. Because Fernando Alonso, who, again, we were expecting to stay at the Alpine team for 2023, all of a sudden decided that he was not going to stay for the Alpine team. And it came out literally the morning after the Hungarian Grand Prix that Fernando Alonso was joining Aston Martin in 2023 to replace Sebastian Vettel, who, of course, is retiring at the end of this season. Nobody saw this coming at all. I think there might have been the slight rumour about Alonso and Aston Martin, but it was never heavily rumoured or even mildly rumoured that this was going to happen. So it was a massive surprise straight away that Alonso had signed up for Aston Martin for 2021. So, naturally, you would expect that Alpine would make the simple decision to go with Oscar Piastri to replace Fernando Alonso because he was, ready and waiting to be in the Alpine team. And they did announce, Alpine, that Oscar Piastri would be racing for them in 2023. I believe this was the following day after Fernando Alonso's announcement that he was going to Aston Martin. And at this point, I think everyone assumed that this was now over. But then, in a absolutely mental turn of events, Oscar Piastri then announced on Twitter that he will not be racing for Alpine in 2023 and that he would be racing elsewhere. Again, something that nobody saw coming at all. When this tweet, by the way, came out, I think an hour or two after the announcement from Alpine that he would be racing for them in 2023. So let's get into what Piastri actually had to say on his Twitter. He said, quote, "I understand that without my agreement, Alpine F1 have put out a press release late this afternoon that I am driving for them next year. This is wrong and I have not signed a contract with Alpine for 2023. I will not be driving for Alpine next year." This was an absolute bombshell that Oscar Piastri dropped. And you can go and view the tweet for yourself on Twitter. It has, I think, hundreds of thousands of likes. And it's, just has absolutely massive engagement on it. It's one of the craziest things we've seen when it comes to the driver market, especially in the age of social media. It was just a massively unexpected event, and it was now putting the driver market in such a weird place, because now that Oscar Piastri denied that he wasn't going to be driving for Alpine for next year, it now meant, according to rumours, that Oscar Piastri would be racing instead next year for the McLaren team in 2023 and racing quite probably replacing not Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo at the team, who of course has performed poorly over the last couple years for that team. Now, let me just get into quickly why Oscar Piastri said this in terms of that he will not be racing for Alpine in 2023. Now, the rumour is that Oscar Piastri's contract, and I'll just try and get this up on screen if I can, and the reason I'm showing Fernando Alonso is because he was one, really, who started this whole craziness off. So, Oscar Piastri, it is rumoured, this is not confirmed, by the way, this is just a rumour at the moment, but it is rumoured that the deadline for Alpine signing Piastri to a race contract for 2023 may have been on the 31st of July. The 31st of July was the race day in Hungary, and of course Fernando Alonso announced he was racing for Aston Martin on the 1st of August. So, Fernando Alonso's move came at just the absolute worst time for the Alpine team, because now, if this is true, that Piastri had a contract, or that deadline was in place, that if it went past the 31st of July, that he could negotiate with different teams, such as McLaren, maybe even Williams, who has been rumoured as well as possibly hiring Piastri for their team, then it put Alpine, and puts possibly Alpine, in such a bad position, because that means, what it meant was that their entire plans of a driver lineup just completely imploded in essentially 24 hours. And Piastri, from his point of view, because, again, if this is true, that the deadline for him signing a race contract for Alpine, a valid one for 2023, the deadline for that was the 31st of July. Once that passed, if that is true, it was then rumoured, heavily rumoured, and had some good sources to go with it as well, that he would be replacing at the team Daniel Ricciardo. This was pretty much going around in the media a couple days after Piastri spectacularly announced on Twitter that he would not be racing for Alpine in 2023. And here is the story itself. A source, I think, told ESPN that Daniel Ricciardo was told, I think, during the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend by Andreas Seidel, who, of course, is the McLaren F1 team boss, that he would not be racing for them next year, and that they would be that he would be replaced by Oscar Piastri, and that they would try and buy out, basically. Maybe not buy out. Is buy out his contract the right term? Or they would basically pay him off to make sure that he does not race for them next year. And the rumour is that Daniel Ricciardo is wanting $21 million for McLaren, to spend $21 million to ensure that he doesn't race for them next year. Now, we have seen this happen in the past. Kimi Räikkönen, I think, was paid $15 million in 2010 not to race for them in that year, because back then, Kimi did actually have a contract for 2010, but Ferrari wanted Alonso and got Alonso instead to replace Räikkönen, so they paid off Kimi so they could have Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa as their driver lineup. So, in terms of is Piastri going to McLaren, it's still kind of up in the air at the moment when it comes to this, because McLaren, I mean, if they could find the money to pay off Ricciardo, then maybe, yeah, they can get that done. But if they can't, then it puts Piastri in a very, very difficult position, and quite possibly means that Oscar Piastri, despite all of this craziness, might not actually be on the grid next year. That is definitely a possibility. Another possibility, though, with Oscar is that he might still race for Alpine next year. The reason that is because, and I'll get to it now if I can, is because Alpine, I think, are going to the contract recognition board in the UK to try and to prove that, that the contract that Alpine had with Oscar Piastri is absolutely correct and that he will be racing for them next year. We did see this in terms of Formula One. We did see this back in 2004 when Jenson Button announced he was moving to Williams BMW for 2005, but then BAR went to the contract recognition board, I think it was, and then got that overturned, and then he stayed at BAR, even though there was a couple years after where he was still heavily rumoured to be going to Williams, but eventually stayed at that team, and eventually, of course, that was a great decision for him because he ended up winning the World Championship with what eventually became the Brawn team. But, yeah, with this, thing in the top left that you can see here, Otmar Safnauer said that he is 90% certain that Alpine's contractual saga with Oscar Piastri will head to the High Court, because if he is not with the team next season, they will want compensation. So basically, from Oscar Piastri's point of view, in terms of Alpine, if the contract recognition board, if they rule in Alpine's favour that, the contract is absolutely, fine from Alpine's side, and that Piastri has to fulfill, I guess, the obligations of the contract and race for Alpine in 2023, then it won't go to the High Court. But Otmar Safnauer says he's 90% sure, because they want, if he doesn't race with them next year, as he said, they want compensation. Because remember, they have been funding quite heavily his career in the last, I think, 2.5, 3 years of Alpine. So this will end inevitably between Alpine and Oscar Piastri in court, which is a shame, of course. You don't want to see these things end in court, but that's just the way things happen. But I think I've covered basically there, in as best a way, hopefully, as I could, just how this saga has happened. So Piastri, again, in recap, Piastri was announced to be going to Alpine to replace Fernando Alonso, who's now going to Aston Martin, but Piastri said that he isn't, and he won't be racing for them next year. And maybe that July 31st deadline is the reason why, because after that date, he can go and negotiate with any team other than Alpine. And if that is true, then if McLaren can, pay Daniel Ricciardo enough money to not race for them next season, then Piastri, by the looks of it, will be racing for McLaren next season, but he will probably still be going to court with Alpine over compensation and, just Alpine trying to recover the money they invested into Oscar Piastri. And obviously from Alonso's point of view, yeah, he's off to Aston Martin, and Ricciardo hopefully will still be on the grid next year. There is lots of rumours that he could be going the other way to Alpine. We'll see if that is true. But what I want to quickly get into with this situation is who is to blame in terms of what has happened here. Let's quickly get into that. So, in my view, the person to blame, and I know people have made lots of memes about it, and it has been funny, by the way, I'm not going to deny it has been funny. The person to blame for this whole saga, and the reason I don't actually feel, my opinion of Alpine is not that bad coming out of this situation, is because Fernando Alonso, at the end of the day, if what we've heard is correct, that Alpine had no indication that Fernando Alonso wanted to leave them to go to Aston Martin, and he basically told them a pack of lies, then I don't honestly understand what Alpine could have done. If they think Fernando Alonso is going to stay, but then suddenly decides to leave, and then let's say that July 31st deadline with Piastri's contract is true, and then Piastri after that date can start negotiating with other teams, then instead of, saying that Alpine, have got this massively wrong, it seems to me more so that they've been screwed over in this situation. Because the thing is, with Alonso, if he doesn't want to stay at Alpine, that's fine. You don't have to stay anywhere that you don't want to be. But could he have at least told Alpine that he was going to Aston Martin? Could he have not at least done that? Because to be honest, that is a pretty shitty thing to do from Fernando. And yeah, it is funny. It is funny that he did that and basically just dropped a bomb and left Alpine to rot in a meme kind of way. But from a serious point of view, I think Fernando Alonso has acted in a very shitty way here, because he's essentially bullshitted his team, or, the people employing him, and now he's off with another company, another F1 team, and now Alpine are in a absolutely terrible situation in terms of their driver lineup for next year, where they're going to have to be now probably scrambling for drivers for 2023. And I've got to say, looking at this situation, I've done a video in the past about Fernando Alonso and his antics when it comes to dealing with certain teams in the past, but there's good reason, put it this way, there's good reason as to why Fernando isn't exactly liked by a lot of teams out there, and this is a clear case of that. Alpine have not screwed him over. They didn't. It's not like they gave him a car that was, nowhere near as good as they promised. He knew when he went to Alpine that Alpine would be a midfield team. So let's not pretend like it's a situation like McLaren Honda from a few years ago. He knew what he was getting into. Alpine have offered him exactly what he was expecting. They haven't screwed him over, but Alonso has just decided, fuck it, and to stab them in the back, which I think, if I was looking at this from Alpine's point of view, I would feel very betrayed by what Fernando has done, and I think they're right to feel that. Again, Fernando did not have to stay at Alpine, but if you're going to leave, just be honest and say, I've signed a contract with Aston Martin, I'm going to be leaving, instead of doing what he did, which was, for me, from a serious point of view, just completely uncalled for. And as to, this Alpine situation where they're going to be scrambling for drivers, Fernando Alonso has absolutely caused this, and he, I guess you could say, is at fault for this happening. I would not say Alpine is necessarily at fault for this happening, because if that July 31st deadline, like I've been saying, a million times, is true with Oscar Piastri, then really, what could they have done? I mean, Fernando, with Fernando lying to them and saying, or not giving any indication that he wanted to leave, what could Alpine have realistically done if that July 31st deadline is actually true? So Fernando Alonso has absolutely caused this to happen. And if I was Alpine, I would feel very, again, betrayed by what Fernando has done. But what is going to happen now with this situation going forward? How is this all going to end up and shake out? Well, obviously, Alonso's going to Aston Martin. That's already settled. With Oscar Piastri, what I think will happen is I think McLaren will pay Ricciardo the money, if that is the amount of money that he wants. I think eventually they will pay him the money. Maybe not immediately, say the next month or so. Or maybe they won't pay him now, but they won't be able to guarantee it now. Maybe in a few months they'll be able to say, we've got the money that we can pay you off now. But I think they will eventually, before the end of the year, be able to accumulate that money so they can pay Daniel Ricciardo that sum to not race for them next year. Meaning that Oscar Piastri, I think, will race for McLaren in 2023. And it will be exciting to see Oscar at McLaren and to see against Lando Norris, just how good he is. Obviously, F2 champion in 2021. There's a lot of hype surrounding him, so it'll be great to see just how great he can be in Formula 1. But in terms of Daniel Ricciardo, where will he end up? It does depend on when McLaren kind of settle the situation with Ricciardo, in terms of, like I said a moment ago, when they're able to say to him, we'll be able to pay you off and lay out essentially the plan. Because if McLaren can guarantee that they will pay him off for next year to not race for them, the sooner they do that, the better chance Ricciardo has of going to a team like Alpine. But if it drags on, this situation, until the end of the year, then the chances of him going from McLaren to Alpine, of course, he used to race for Alpine / Renault at the time, those chances become a lot lower, because Alpine are not going to just wait for Daniel Ricciardo to maybe get paid off by McLaren in the next few months. Alpine are going to want to probably confirm their driver lineup for next season in the next couple of months. So, again, the longer this situation goes on, the less it favours Daniel Ricciardo, unless somehow he races for McLaren next year. But honestly, I don't see how he will. I just don't see how that is going to happen, given everything that has happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. And, this year with Ricciardo at McLaren. But if he gets the situation sorted in the next couple of months, with the whole being paid off, then I think he will go to the Alpine team. And I think Alpine would be very stupid not to take Daniel Ricciardo back, because they need to try and replace Fernando Alonso with the best driver possible they can find. And looking at who's available, you'd have to say Daniel Ricciardo is probably the only one that could go for that is closest to Fernando Alonso. But if it does drag on and he can't go to Alpine, the only other teams I could see him going to is maybe Haas F1, if Mick Schumacher, who there are rumours that he might be going to Alpine. Maybe Haas F1, replacing Mick. That would be a decent move. But from Ricciardo's point of view, he does need to get this sorted, because if he doesn't, then he could, and there is definitely a chance, not a great chance, probably only a 15-20% chance, that Daniel Ricciardo will not be on the grid next year in Formula 1. But guys, that is the Oscar Piastri McLaren Alpine saga so far. Let me know in the comments section, do you agree or disagree with what I had to say? Do you think that Fernando Alonso acted bad here in terms of, basically lying to his team and stabbing them in the back when they've not done anything to him to deserve this? And also, one point I forgot to mention is, Alpine gave Alonso his return into Formula 1 when, realistically, at the time, I don't think anyone else would have. So I think Fernando should be a bit more grateful to the Alpine team than he has been. Let me know what you think in relation to what I said there. And how do you think this situation will end up? Will Piastri be at McLaren? Will he be at Alpine? Where will Ricciardo be for next year? Let me know in the comments section down below, guys. But until my next video, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye. And guys, that is it for that opening topic. And I'll cut back to these slideshow pictures. And yeah, I'll read out your comments in the chat, guys, in just a moment. And as I was saying there for the recorded video, let me know what you thought of what I had to say. That goes for you guys as well. Let me know in the live chat right now. What do you think of what I had to say? Do you agree or disagree with anything I said? Do you think Alonso was wrong, like I did, for stabbing Alpine in the back the way he did? Or do you agree, disagree with that? How do you think this whole situation will end up? Where will Daniel Ricciardo be? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll get to your comments in a moment. Right. I was just trying to sort something out in the chat there. That's why I took a long pause there. I was just trying to show this comment from Sparky Pete, who says, "You're the first person I hear how shitty and serious point of view on leaving Alpine." Do you mean I'm the first person, Sparky Pete? Do you mean I'm the first person to say that Alonso was shitty for the way he dealt with Alpine? If that's what you mean. I mean, with Alonso, I love his brutality at times, but there are definitely times where he just goes over the top with it. Like, there were times at McLaren where I think it wasn't 2015, it was more like at times in 2016, but also in 2017, where he would just moan every race for the same, for the same problems. Now I get that those problems he was having, the lack of power, lack of reliability, and the just Honda power unit and the McLaren car as a combination being so bad. But, I mean, yeah, complain about it maybe once or twice, but if you complain about it every race, it's like, yeah, we get it. The car's shit. Stop complaining about it. It's just making it worse at that point. And I just think Alonso a lot of the time just goes over the top with his anger and the way he does things. Let me read some comments though. For anyone new watching though, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because we will be live on the channel plenty of times this week. On Thursday, I'll be live at 6 PM UK time, the Belgian Grand Prix preview show. Then live on Friday at 6 PM UK time for the Belgian Grand Prix qualifying preview. And then on Saturday, I'll be live from 12 PM till 4:30 PM. From 11:45 AM till 4:30 PM. 11:45 AM till 1 PM, I'll be live for practice 3 to watch along that session. And then 1 till 3 PM will be the build-up to qualifying. 3 till 4 PM is qualifying, and then I'll do a half an hour reaction after. And then for the race on Sunday, I'll be live from 12 PM until probably 5 PM UK time on Sunday. And it'll be, 12 till 1:30 will be the build-up to the race. 1:30 till 4 PM UK time will be the race watch-along itself. And then I'll do probably an hour's reaction after the race has finished. So make sure to come along to all that content, whether you're subscribed or not. But if you're not subscribed to the channel, then on on the bottom right of the screen. Make sure to click subscribe right there. And for everyone watching, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But let me have a look to see what you guys are saying. Sparky Pete says, imagine if Piastri ends up not getting any seat at all, if Daniel somehow wants to stay. My guess is that Daniel will not want to stay, but he will, want to get a payout because, the situation sucks, and he does actually have a contract as Daniel for 2023. But, if they're that desperate to get rid of him, then I would do exactly what he's doing. Make sure to secure that payday. Josiah says, as much as he deserves, one, I kind of hope Piastri doesn't get a seat for the way this has all been handled. Paul James Squibb says, Aston Martin should get rid of Stroll and have Alonso and Piastri. Let the wise old fella be the mentor for the new blood. Aston Martin are never going to do that, though, because, obviously, Lance Stroll's dad owns the team. So Lance Stroll will literally race for Aston Martin for the rest of his career until, obviously, his dad sells the team. That is literally how it's going to go with Lance Stroll. I don't think Lawrence will own Aston Martin forever. My guess is if I don't think the Aston Martin project works, which I don't think it will to its absolute highest potential, then I think Lawrence will eventually sell the team. And then you could probably see Lance Stroll maybe out of Formula 1, but that's not going to be probably for another 10 years, to be honest. But to be honest, looking at it as well, I think Lance Stroll is doing well enough to be in Formula 1. I know he's not great. He does have the occasional great Grand Prix, though, but I think he's doing absolutely fine. We have to remember this Aston Martin car is absolute pony. Paul James Squibb says, surely Alpine knew Alonso's contract was up at the end of the season. They really need to give Alonso a deadline to sign a new contract before Hungary, or they go with Piastri. Dark says, come on, they were treating him badly, acting like he was 90-year-old. I don't see how I don't see what you're trying to say there. Do you have any evidence they were treating him badly, like saying stuff about him or saying stuff that could be perceived in a negative light? Because I haven't really seen that much evidence that could suggest that Alpine were treating him in a bad way. Mandy Gray says Alpine treated Alonso and Oscar like pawns. They tried to play both of them against each other. I think there is definitely, a possibility that, Oscar Piastri was more favoured within the Alpine team for the future over Fernando Alonso, which is sensible because obviously Fernando is 40 years old. And I think Otmar Safnauer was more keen on Piastri than he was Alonso. But I don't think Alpine actually had a problem with Alonso, properly. If Alonso had actually signed a contract to stay at Alpine for next year and maybe even the year after, I don't think Alpine would have any problem with that at all. Josiah says, Alonso stinks, to be honest. I'm glad someone has finally looked at it from that side. I just, again, Alonso is a very brutal person, a bit like me. Maybe I'm not as brutal, but what do you call it? I'm just very surprised that people have not actually called out obvious absolute bullshit here. Because Otmar Safnauer, I think right after Alonso said that he was going to Aston Martin, or Aston Martin announced that they had signed Fernando Alonso. Pretty sure Otmar Safnauer said that he was given no indication that Fernando wanted to leave, and even talked about that with Fernando the day before it was announced he was going to Aston Martin. And Fernando, again, gave no indication that he wanted to leave or was unhappy or anything. But apparently Alpine are at fault. What? Like, that makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, if Alonso's unhappy at Alpine because they're just not performing well enough to his liking, okay, that's fine enough. But let's not pretend like Alpine have treated him like shit, because they haven't. Alpine have treated him absolutely fine. There have been a million other drivers who have been treated worse than Fernando Alonso has at Alpine. So let's not make up bullshit. And I'm not saying that you guys are in the chat. I'm more so talking to the people that have been like criticising Alpine, which I don't get at all, because I think from Alpine's point of view, they're absolutely right to feel aggrieved by how this has all happened. And yeah, I don't understand the whole Fernando Alonso loving about this situation. I just don't get it. He's just stabbed them in the back, screwed them over, yet everyone's like jerking him off about it. I just don't get it. Sparky P says, I'm lagging. Yes, that's what I meant. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people on social media who just basically copy whatever the favourable or popular viewpoint is, to be honest. With me, I tend to look at the situation, just develop my own point of view. I couldn't give a fuck about anyone else's point of view in terms of, like, you know, I like listening to other people's point of view, obviously. You guys in the chat and opposing point of views, but I don't, like, listen to people's point of view so I can copy them or follow their line of arguments or, you know, basically be on their side just because that's the popular argument. I just come to my own conclusions, which everybody should. That's the way life should work. Everybody should look at, you know, the evidence and come to their own conclusions. But that's not how life, unfortunately, works. Emmanuel, do you have experience in F1? No. Rooksfoot says Alonso has always been GP2 engine brutal, but to be fair, the media team that released Piastri post before it was all set in stone and confirmed is crazy. Josiah says, let's talk about the technical directive. I'm not going to be talking about it tonight, but I will talk about it on Thursday. So, yeah, we will get into that, just not yet. Because the reason on Thursday I want to get into it is because it will have a pretty big effect probably on this Belgian Grand Prix weekend. This weekend. So, yeah, on Thursday I will get into it. And, you know, look at things that have changed, how will it affect certain drivers, or not certain drivers, certain teams, and what it's likely to do. So don't worry, I will get into it because, yeah, it will make for some difference. I'm going to quickly, though, just look on YouTube to see if there's any videos I can react to that are from, like, a opposite point of view. So, hold on. Let me just look on YouTube. Because it is nice, like I said, to react to... opposing point of views. Let me just have a look. There's a couple here from the race, but I don't know what point of view they're putting across. Let me just have a look. There was... hold on. I remember seeing a title, I think, from WTF1, I think, yesterday. About... yeah, they titled a video, Why Did Alpine Pretend Oscar Piastri Was Driving for Them? Which doesn't make any sense, because that whole July 31st thing is not confirmed. That's a rumour. We haven't actually heard confirmation about that. Hold on a minute. Let me just quickly look at this Look at this, what do you call it? This race video to see if we can react to it. See if they're criticizing, or if they're, you know, have the opposite point of view. There is a comment though in their comment section of their video saying, according to F1's very own Lawrence Barretto, Alonso's people, or the sources for what Lawrence said, Alonso apparently wanted a multi-year deal with Alpine. Alpine only offered 1 year to warm the seat for Oscar. Alonso feel like with all the things he's done for Alpine, it was an insult that Alpine would only offer him 1 year. But the thing is, I understand what Alonso... I understand that from Alonso, but he also needs to look at it from their point of view. Fernando is 40 years old. Alonso could decide at any point in the next few years to just retire from Formula One. So why would a team like Alpine offer him a multi-year contract? That makes no sense whatsoever. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's like, if you look at Mercedes only offer Lewis Hamilton like 1 or 2 year contracts because he's 36 and they know he could literally retire any point. Plus, they don't want to spend more money on a driver that could end up retiring before the contract ends. So, yeah, it's like, it makes complete sense from Alpine's point of view. Let's have a look. See. And have a look to see if this video is something we can react to. I'm just looking at the comments quickly to see if what the point of view is of this video. Let me have a quick look at the subtitles of this video. Piastri, number 1 choice. And an embarrassment for Alpine. Hold on, let me just see what they say here. Subtitles. Keep your comments coming, by the way, in the chat. I will read out a few more, so sorry if I'm not talking about a lot right now. So I'm just trying to see this is if they're talking about this from the opposite point of view. Yeah, they actually showed a quote in this video from Oscar. Not Oscar, from Otmar Safnauer, who said, the first confirmation I had about Alonso's move was for the press release. I did ask the question before leaving Hungary and was told, no, I haven't signed anything. Again, that just proves, like, Alonso's just acted horribly here. Hold on. I'm not sure if this video is... I think they're just reporting on it rather than giving their opinion. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Have Aston Martin offered Alonso a multi-year contract? And yeah, Josiah answered that in the chat saying, yeah, it was a 2+1, which is, what, 2 years and then an option for a third. I think that's what that means, if I'm correct. If I'm not, then make sure to correct me in the chat. Paul James Squibb says if Vettel, or asks if Vettel is retiring and Piastri is the only new driver, then Ricciardo will be driving for someone, but who? Probably if he could get his situation sorted in terms of leaving, McLaren, if he can get that sorted in the next month or so, then it'll probably be Alpine. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it all there. But yeah, if you missed my, me talking and covering the topic, then don't worry because I recorded it. And it'll be uploaded tomorrow at 6 p.m. UK time, so do not worry about that. But the next topic we're going to go into is Mick Schumacher. And what we're going to talk about with Mick is his F1 career so far, his quite short F1 career so far. Really, this 2022 season has been the only representative year of his career. Last year, I mean, who cares about that year? It was a bullshit year, really, for him. And we're going to be getting into whether he has the tools needed to succeed in Formula 1 and have a properly successful F1 career. Yeah, we'll get into that in just a moment. I'm just going to quickly have a drink, I think, and then we'll get into it. So keep your comments coming in the chat, guys. And I might read a couple more out before I get into this topic. So yeah, keep them coming in chat. Right. There is a comment, and yeah, Josiah says that's correct. Cheers for that. Paul James Squibb says it made sense for Alonso to move for the multi-year contract then. Just the timing of him saying it is a little suspect, but also sounds like Piastri may not be that keen on driving for Alpine. I don't think Piastri wasn't keen on driving for Alpine. I just think it was more of a situation of like, the longer Alpine left it, the less keen he became. Because, I mean, if I was in Piastri's position and I still didn't know whether I'd be driving for Alpine or be in F1 next year, I would want to get some other team, get a contract signed with another team just in case, if possible. So yeah, I think if they had confirmed before the summer break began that Oscar would be driving for them and that Alonso was honest with Alpine and actually, announced, or at least let them know that, yeah, he was moving to Aston Martin for next year, then I think the situation would have been handled pretty easily. Alonso would have gone to Aston Martin and Oscar would have replaced Alonso for 2023. So, yeah. And yeah, from Alonso's point of view, a multi-year contract. Yeah, that's for him. That's great, but he needs to understand, and him wanting a multi-year contract again. If he wants that, that's great, but it is a very selfish thing to ask for because he's 40 years old, and I mean Aston Martin. The only reason they're giving him a multi-year contract is to appease him because they want someone to replace Sebastian Vettel who is of similar level. Most teams on the grid would not offer Fernando Alonso a multi-year contract. I don't think they would do that at all. I think they would offer him at most 2 years without the option for any more after that. But I think there would be other teams on the grid that would only offer him a year. Because, again, he could just retire at any point, and he's such a volatile character that you want to have the option, if possible, to back out of that contract quicker or sooner rather than later. So, yeah, from Alonso's viewpoint, it makes sense, or it's good for him, but from the team's point of view, it makes, for me, more sense than from Fernando's. And he can't really complain about it. He's just being very selfish, is Fernando. Ronan Brady, hello, Chazza. Hello to you. Good to see you. Oh, yeah. Let me just show this on screen. If I can. Yeah. Yeah, let me just get it up. I saw this earlier. So, apparently, Nico Hülkenberg is being considered by Haas as an option for 2023. Ferrari to have minimal influence on the final decision. Haas will evaluate options in the market. The reason this is because there is rumours that Mick Schumacher might be leaving the Ferrari driver academy and going to Alpine for next year. So, if Mick does leave, then Nico is an option for them, which will he be a good option for them? Probably. Yeah, but doesn't exactly inspire a lot of hope in me that Haas are going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, just want to share that quickly with Haas. We'll see if the no podium man will return to finish on yet no more podiums. And also, there are rumours that that Daniel Ricciardo might be an option for Haas, but it is viewed as a long shot, I think, for the team. Ronan Brady says a great signing for Haas. He's better than you think he is, Chazza. He's good. He's a good driver. He's at the level of a Lance Stroll, Magnussen, people like that. But it's not really a massive signing, is it? Paul James Squibbs says or asks, so if McLaren give Ricciardo 21 million, Piastri will be with McLaren. Ricciardo will go to Alpine. Well, not automatically, but if they can get it sorted out sooner rather than later, then yeah, I think Ricciardo could probably go to Alpine. They says that sounds interesting. Lando, Piastri at McLaren, the young guns. Sorry, the young guns. Paul says I'd like to see that. Yeah, that would be a very exciting driver lineup, and I think people would be surprised just how good Oscar is against Lando Norris. They'd be very surprised. Ronan Brady says why he's a very underrated driver. I think he gets a lot of unfair stick for the no podium thing. It's not unfair stick. The reason he hasn't got any podiums is because when he had the chance, he bottled it. I mean, yeah, he's had some very good races in his career and had some good seasons here and there, but he's not, people. I remember, when he was at Renault, people were wanting him in Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull. They thought he was like easily good enough for these teams, and I was like, are you mental? He's not on that level. Nico Hülkenberg is a midfield driver. He can get good results, consistent to a certain point, but he's never gonna do really or outperform the car really ever. Maybe once or twice here or there, but he's not gonna really pull out amazing results considering how fast or slow the car is. So yeah, again, I view him at the level of like a Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon. Who else would I put in that tier? Maybe an Esteban Ocon, but honestly, I'd put Ocon a bit higher than Hülkenberg. At his peak, 2013 to 15, I think he was better than Lando Norris will ever be. Well, that is a bold statement. That is a bold statement indeed, but that's your opinion. Anyway. Paul James Squibb says this is starting to sound like a game of musical chairs. Who's going to lose a seat in F1 if Hülkenberg joins Haas? Well, if Mick goes to Alpine, then it's probably Ricciardo, isn't it? Because Alfa Romeo, they're not going to change their lineup. AlphaTauri have confirmed their lineup, I think, pretty much for next season. Williams, I think, are probably going to go with Alex Albon and Logan Sargent for next year. I mean, I don't see Williams going for Daniel Ricciardo because I don't think they'll want to pay the amount that Ricciardo would want to be paid. And I don't think the new owners of the Williams team are that ambitious. I don't think they really give a fuck about the Williams team, to be honest. So, yeah. If Schumacher goes to Alpine and Hülkenberg goes to Haas, then Ricciardo will be off the grid and probably will be finished with F1. Maybe makes a return for a year or two at another team, but yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all if Schumacher did go to Alpine and Hülkenberg to Haas. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Ricciardo was out of Formula One forever. Ronan Brady says, really starting to wonder why Alpine gave Ocon a long contract. It cost them Alonso and Piastri. I see what you mean, but from Alpine's point of view, I think it was the right decision because Esteban Ocon, last season and this season especially, is easily performing well enough for the team. Plus, he is likely to stay with Alpine for a few years, so they want to invest in their asset, I guess you could say. That is Esteban Ocon. So I think that makes absolute sense. I mean, if Fernando Alonso was like 10 years younger, I think they would have absolutely given Fernando a multi-year contract. But yeah, I can't really blame the team for not giving a 40-year-old, more than 2 years. Ronan Brady says, like the Glazers of football, the Williams owners. Yeah. Let me just Google them. Was it Doralton Capital? Just, yeah, private investment firm. And they bought Williams for what, $180 million. And yeah, what they will be is they'll basically do what the Glazers do with Man U. They'll take whatever Williams earn. Obviously, they'll allow Williams to still operate on what they earn from certain things. They'll still allow them to operate as a Formula One team, but they're not going to invest money into Williams to actually improve Williams at all. That's not the plan. And that's why, for me, Williams are basically finished as a team. Either Williams are going to stay at the back forever, or they're going to get bought out by someone else, and hopefully they'll get bought out by someone else and took to a different place because Williams are finished. They're absolutely finished are Williams. Paul James Squibbs, who do you rate as a better driver, Ricciardo or Hülkenberg? Ricciardo, 100%. I think 2019 proved that. Hülkenberg wasn't at his absolute finest, but yeah, I think Daniel's definitely the better driver. Right, I think we will move on to my Mick Schumacher topic. And, what do you call it? I need to get some of this stuff. Hold on. Need to get some of these things going on screen. There you go. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about Mick Schumacher. And again, what I'm going to talk about is whether Mick does have the tools to succeed in Formula One, based on what we've seen so far. Let me know, guys, whilst I talk about this in the chat again, what you think of what I had to say. And do you think Mick Schumacher has the tools to succeed in Formula One? Let me know in the chat, and I will get to your comments after I cover this topic. So, yeah, let me know in the chat. But I think I'll now get into it. Go this on screen and get going. So in Mick Schumacher's short F1 career so far, obviously in 2021 there was no representative data really to take from that season. In 2022, his first proper go in Formula One in a decent car, we have seen glimpses from Mick of some good pace and that he has the talent possibly to succeed in Formula One, but can he actually have a properly successful Formula One career? Well, that's what we're going to get into in today's video. We're going to look at, really, his 2022 season so far and look at just, where he did well, where he didn't do well, where he really needs to improve compared to what he has done so far compared to teammate Kevin Magnussen at the Haas team. But quickly with 2021, again, the Haas car that year was so bad, so there is absolutely 0 point in talking about that season because it was not representative at all. And his teammate was probably the worst F1 driver we've had since UGE Day in 2006. So, yeah, no representative data can really be took from that. So we're just going to be looking at 2022 so far. And so far in 2022, again, Mick, we have seen glimpses of some proper talent and some very good skill from him, the type of skill that won him the F2 and F3 championship, but it just hasn't been shown quite enough. He has got better as the season has gone on, which is great, and it does show that something we saw in his F2 and F3 seasons, that he does take a bit of time to get going, but once he does, he is quite a good driver. But let's see from what we've, again, seen so far, whether he's doing well enough and quite has enough to be a properly successful F1 driver. So, at the start of the season, obviously in Bahrain, he had a decent race, wasn't as quick, anywhere near as quick as his teammate Kevin Magnussen, and missed out on a point in the Grand Prix, being overtaken by Zhou Guanyu, I think, for that final point of the final couple laps. Then at Saudi Arabia, had an enormous crash, which cost him quite possibly a Q3 appearance that day, and possibly a points finish as well, because Haas were pretty quick in the race as well. This was the first of 2 absolutely enormous accidents in 2022, and thankfully hasn't made or hasn't done any of these massive crashes since, but this was a catastrophic mistake he made. He simply just got too, I think, high on the curb right before he crashed into the wall. It caused an absolutely massive accident, which saw him have to withdraw from the Grand Prix. But after that, we saw some okay performances from Mick after that Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He would out-qualify and out-race Kevin Magnussen in Australia, even though Haas were not quick at all that weekend. At Imola, he would show some good potential, finishing the top 10 of the sprint race, and was looking decent for the race on the Sunday, but then made such a silly mistake on the Sunday, spinning his car. And in Miami, despite qualifying quite low down, still out-qualified his teammate Magnussen, but Haas were not that quick in qualifying. He did have a pretty good chance at a points finish, because eventually, towards the end of the Grand Prix, Mick was actually running up in the top 10 and was about to try and overtake Sebastian Vettel for a points-paying position. But once again, just like we saw at Saudi, where there was probably a chance if he kept it together of getting a decent result, he absolutely bottled it by trying to overtake Sebastian in turn 1, simply was too far behind, dive-bombed Sebastian, and then took him out. And to be honest, with Alonso's penalty that he had that day that dropped Alonso back from 8th place, Mick probably would have finished in the points if he had not even bothered going for an overtake here on Sebastian Vettel. And again, it was a very costly mistake, not just because of, costing him the points finish, but again, damage to the car, costing the team money for the budget cap. And then after that, he cost the team even more money with an accident, an absolutely enormous one in Monaco. And this was about the time, maybe you could argue the race after in Baku, where he was at his absolute lowest point, because he just could not consistently keep it together. He would have the odd result where he would maybe be close to getting to the top 10 in qualifying, or maybe just about getting to the top 10, would be at times running in the top 10 in the race on the Sunday, but just couldn't bring it all together to get the result that Haas needed for the Constructors' Championship. And this is where the pressure really started to ramp up on Mick, because after this, his team boss started to get a bit critical of him and say that, he really needs to step up compared to, step up compared to Kevin Magnussen and compared to what they thought he was capable of. And Baku, the weekend after, he would have another terrible Grand Prix where he was absolutely miles off the pace of his teammate, over a second a lap slower in qualifying. I think 1.1 seconds it was exactly at the time. And that first, say, 8 races of the season, again, there were glimpses of some good stuff from Mick, but overall it was quite poor, as I will show here. So this data is the head-to-head of Magnussen and Mick Schumacher for the first 8 Grand Prix. So in the races, it's equal, 3-3. In qualifying, Magnussen quicker by 6-2, which is pretty clear, obviously, in Magnussen's favour. Magnussen had 15 points, Mick had 0. Mick had probably 2 chances at a points finish, I'd say, in those first 8 races. Actually 3 chances, probably Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Miami as well, but just didn't take any of those opportunities. And K-Mag also had an extra DNF. But the biggest problem for Mick was when Kevin was ahead of him, especially in qualifying, the pace difference was way too big. The average quali gap from Magnussen to Mick in the first 8 races was 5.5 tenths of a second. Now, if you watched my Daniel Ricciardo video about how you can't be as far off your teammate as Ricciardo was in qualifying, and the average gap from Norris to Ricciardo was like 7 tenths per second, the same goes here for Mick. If you're going to succeed in Formula 1, you cannot be half a second slower than your teammate, especially not half a second slower than Kevin Magnussen. Now, I do like Kevin Magnussen. I've always thought he's been quite underrated. I've never been a big critic of him. I've always thought he's a very quick driver. But if you're going to really live up to your potential and succeed in Formula 1, you've got to beat Kevin Magnussen. If you can't beat drivers like Kevin Magnussen, then you're going to be at best stuck in the midfield. And that's just the way it was looking for Mick coming out of those first 8 races, that he was at best going to be a lower tier midfield driver, and that just wasn't, and he just wasn't capable of getting those, properly great results. Maybe could get a great result, once in a blue moon, but just not on a consistent basis from what we were seeing so far. But then, after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, in the 5 races leading up to the summer break, we started to see some differences with Mick. As Mick, at the Canadian Grand Prix, would qualify 6th. His teammate was out qualifying in 5th place, but Mick would run in the top 10 for quite a while, I think for the first 20 laps, and was doing quite well until his car failed him. And I think Mick probably would have had a points finish from that Grand Prix, maybe a couple points at best from that Grand Prix, had his car not failed him. But I think that was really the weekend where he turned it around with a fantastic qualifying lap and a pretty good race up until his retirement. And then at the British Grand Prix, despite having a poor qualifying, not just himself, but the Haas team in general, he had an amazing Grand Prix where he would finish in the points for the first time in his Formula 1 career. And he would come up from, I think, was it 17th on the grid, and would finish 8th, and probably should have finished in P7 ahead of Max Verstappen, who had quite a damaged car, if he was able to get into a better position just to overtake Max, who was pretty aggressive with how he defended his position that day. But it was finally we saw Mick, I think, properly getting that great result, and it was great to see. But what we wanted to see after this was, Mick continue this and not just go back to what he was doing previously. And at the Red Bull Ring, he would have an even better weekend, and this is definitely by far his best weekend in his Formula 1 career. Finished in the top 10 in Friday qualifying, finished, I think, was it 7th or 8th in the sprint race, and then he finished 6th in the race on the Sunday. A top 6 finish in the Haas car, which is something that really should be quite rare for Magnussen or Schumacher to do, because the Haas car really is not that great. even though that weekend, yeah, it was quick, it still isn't quite that great. And it was a brilliant, brilliant weekend. Holding back Lewis Hamilton the way he did in the sprint race was fantastic. Yes, Mick was helped by having DRS from his teammate ahead, but the way he defended and kept Lewis back, and even the way he did that for, I think, a couple laps in the race on the Sunday, showed that there was definitely some good talent there when it came to racing other drivers, and also made some good overtaking moves in the race as well, especially on Daniel Ricciardo, the McLaren there behind Mick Schumacher. And yeah, it was just overall a fantastic weekend. And then after that, even though we haven't seen Mick, we haven't seen any points finishes since then in Paul Ricard and the Hungaroring. Haas weren't that quick, to be fair, and in both races, Mick did outrace Kevin Magnussen. And in Hungary, if Haas had not made the mistake in going onto the hard compound tyre for Mick's first pit stop, he could have finished the points because he was actually running in the top 10, I think, at one point, or in the first into that Grand Prix. So Mick, in the races, has really stepped it up and is now looking quite consistent in his performances, consistently good, which is very good to say and very good to see as well. And we'll just quickly get into the differences between the first 8 races and the 5 races after that. So again, these are the first 8 races. Equal the races. Magnussen still much quicker in qualifying. Pretty clear, obviously, in the points there. And in terms of the qualifying gap, clearly in Magnussen's favour. Now, there are differences in the final 5 races before the summer break, but not massive, but it is something that is heading, say, in the right direction from Mick Schumacher's point of view. So, since then, Mick has been 5-1 in the races since then. I think actually that should say 5-0, I think. So sorry about that if I think that's incorrect. K-Mag, though, has outqualified Mick in the 5 races since the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. He's outscored Kevin Magnussen since the Azerbaijan Grand Prix by 5 points. They're equal in DNFs, and the gap, the average qualifying gap from Magnussen to Mick in the 5 races before the summer break compared to the first 8 races of the season has come down by 1/10 of a second. So there's still a lot to be, a lot of progress to be made, but he is getting there. He's, improving his consistency on race day. His pace overall on race day in qualifying is getting better. And that's exactly what you want to see from Mick. But there is still quite a ways to go compared to Kevin Magnussen. Because if Mick really wants to, I think, fulfill his potential, he does need to be at least on the same pace as Kevin Magnussen, if not out-qualifying Kevin Magnussen over the course of a season. This is how they compare overall, though, the season so far. So in the races, it is 8-4 for Mick over Magnussen. The reason it doesn't add up to 13 there is because in Monaco, they both retired from the Grand Prix. It's 11-2 for Magnussen over Mick in qualifying. He does have Magnussen 10 more points than Mick and has the extra DNF as well. So even though Mick has improved, it is still quite clearly this battle going in Magnussen's favour. And if we cut back here now, what I want to just get into quickly is, how can Mick improve? Well, continuing his, to improve his consistency, that'll, help. Because when Haas eventually have, the odd race here or there where they can finish the points and they're quick enough to do so, then that'll benefit Mick because then he'll be able to get a couple points here or there, and that will help him climb a bit further up the championship table. But yeah, just a general improvement in all areas. But I think the biggest thing he has to improve on is his pace compared to Kevin Magnussen. Because we look again, in those first 8 races, half a second off again, that is quite poor. And yes, it is improved by about 1/10 of a second. But still, you cannot be 4/10 of a second slower than Kevin Magnussen on average in qualifying and expect to have a properly successful F1 career. Because, Kevin Magnussen hasn't had a bad F1 career. Obviously had a podium in his first ever Grand Prix. Was unfairly treated, I think, by McLaren when he had a pretty good, I thought, debut season, considering how bad the car was. It wasn't a great McLaren car at all, really. Maybe not until the first, or until the final few races or so. And then, had a really bad Renault to deal with, and then went to Haas, obviously, after that. Magnussen's had a decent F1 career, I think you'd have to say, considering how good he is and the teams or cars he's had to drive in his career. But if you want to have a career that is similar to an Esteban Ocon or Pierre Gasly so far, or overall maybe even a Daniel Ricciardo, or even a driver obviously related, an ex-driver who used to race in F1 who is related to Mick, his uncle, Ralf Schumacher. If you want to have a career similar to him even, you've got to be beating drivers like Kevin Magnussen. Again, Kevin is very, very quick, but if you want to be on the maybe not elite tier of F1 drivers, but on that the second half of that second tier of drivers that I did look at or show in my Lando Norris video I did about a month ago now on the channel, then you've got to be beating drivers like Kevin Magnussen, because Kevin Magnussen is, I think we'd all pretty much agree, is a midfield driver. He's always going to be a midfield driver. He's always going to be that driver who is very quick in qualifying but can never really deliver much more after that on race day, and really relies on the pace of the car on race day to, get him any points that he does actually get. Yes, he does have the odd race here or there where he can, get into the top 10 through just his sheer skill, but really peaks a lot on a Saturday, and he has to make sure that he gets pretty much equal with Kevin Magnussen. And like I said with my Daniel Ricciardo video, you cannot really, compared to your teammate, be more than a third of a second slower on average per qualifying session, because if you are, then you are quite clearly not doing good enough compared to your teammate. And yeah, sometimes in F1 you do get, the number one or the best driver in that team being way better than the second driver in that team. But if you're going to properly succeed in Formula One, you cannot be so far behind in qualifying. And that is really where Mick needs to improve. His single lap pace, I think at times can be good when he really, hooks, or maybe not hooks a good lap together, but gets, confident around the track he is driving at. But he needs to find a way of being able to develop that, or maybe not develop that, but come across that more. Because if you look at the qualifying sessions this season where Mick has done well, it's at circuits that he knows very, very well, such as Catalonia, Red Bull Ring, Canada. He did very well in Canada considering he never raced around there before. But if you look at the races he's done better at, it's normally been the ones or the tracks he's, raced at for quite a while now, when, he did race in F1 last year at some of these tracks where he's not done so well this year at. So he doesn't really have an excuse of being or having no experience at tracks like, Bahrain or Jeddah or other circuits on the calendar as well. But Mick, I think he does have the talent, but he just doesn't have that killer qualifying speed that I think a lot of drivers on the grid have. Obviously, the elite drivers, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc. Maybe you can throw Russell and Alonso in there if you would like to, but for me, those three are the only absolute elite drivers on the grid. Lewis, Max, and Charles. And even in the second tier of drivers, your Alonso's, Russell's, Gasly's, Bottas, Sainz, Norris. They all have, maybe not for every qualifying session they do, but they all have some, killer qualifying speed and have the ability to produce absolutely amazing qualifying laps, considering the lack of pace maybe their car has. I don't feel with Mick that's quite the case. I feel with Mick, he just struggles quite a bit with a single lap. I think with the race, I think he does absolutely fine. I think on race day, I don't think there's any massive problems with his type of, his race pace. But a lot of the time this season, he's just started way too low, way too far down on the grid, really, to capitalize on some good race pace. I mean, even when he finished the points at Silverstone, he started very, very far down. So qualifying is really where he needs to focus on. But going forward, do I think Mick has the talent to succeed in Formula One? It depends what you mean by succeed. If you mean a world champion-like career, then no. Mick Schumacher I don't think is ever going to be a F1 world champion. I don't think Mick is good enough because, again, he lacks that killer qualifying speed, and I just don't think has enough talent compared to the other very good or great drivers on the grid. Can he be a race winner? Probably, yeah. Not a multiple race winner, maybe 3-4 races in his career, yeah. Maybe 6 or 7 at the absolute most he could win in his F1 career. But I don't see him, again, having a world champion-like career. It really depends how you rate him. For me, I think Mick, at best, could be someone like a Pierre Gasly or a Valtteri Bottas, as someone who, if he was at a top team, would clearly be the number 2 driver and would, be miles away from the absolute number 1 on the team, whether it be a Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, or Charles Leclerc, or even a George Russell, but would still be able to get, good results, not great results, but good results, and get the odd race win here or there. And if racing for a midfield team, I think Mick is the type of driver who would get good results in a midfield team, but it wouldn't be spectacular good results, say like Lando Norris had last year for McLaren, or that Daniel Ricciardo had at Renault in 2020 as well. So I think on reflection, I'd say Mick Schumacher has the talent to have, say, a good F1 career for, say, a upper midfield type driver in terms of his quality, but I'm not sure he'll do any better than, or be any better than that, and I'm not sure he can be an absolute top elite F1 driver. So I would say, for how I rate him, I would say he can succeed in Formula One as an upper midfield driver that does get, maybe if he's in a top team eventually later in his career, does get, the odd race win, some podiums, maybe a pole position here or there. But I don't think Mick is an absolute elite driver. And I think we can clearly see that with the talent he has displayed so far in his F1 career. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below, how do you rate Mick Schumacher? Do you think he can be a world champion, a multiple race winner, and a proper top driver? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll make sure to read your comments and see what you guys have to say. And let me know as well, do you agree or disagree with anything I had to say? And do you think by the time his F1 career comes to a close, do you think we'll look back and say that it was a successful F1 career? And compared to Kevin Magnussen, do you think he should be doing a lot better, like I said? Or do you think how he's doing is not actually that bad? Again, let me know in the comment section down below. But guys, until my next video, has been me, Chancellor HD. Goodbye. And that, guys, is that topic now done. So, yeah, like I said at the end of that recording, make sure to post in the, make sure to post in the live chat whether you agree or disagree with anything I had to say. How good do you think Mick can be in Formula One? And with Mick as well, how how good do you think Mick will be in Formula One? And I don't know, what kind of career do you think he will have in Formula One based off what we've seen so far? Do you think he's got the talent to win races, like more than 3 races in his F1 career? or even more than one race win in his career? Let me know in the live chat, and I'll get to your comments in a minute. But I just want to quickly see if there's any videos we can react to in the chat. Josiah, by the way, sorry to disappoint you. It says now Pierre Gasly. I won't actually be doing that Gasly topic tonight. The reason is because I realised that I want to do a bit of a more of an in-depth topic to do with him, and I just didn't have the time to do it. So I will do it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna sack it off. I am gonna do it, but it probably won't be until like 3 weeks from now. I'm going to look to see if there's any Mick Schumacher stuff out there that I could react to. And no. Don't think so, no. Right, let's have a look. Let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. Miss Marquis says, 4:50 in the morning, trying to catch this. Well, credit to you for, you know, being as dedicated as you are, but yeah, sorry if, the timing's a bit bad, but yeah, I tried to go live at the best time for me and for everyone, to be honest, and obviously it does suck for the Australian viewers, but thankfully, what do you call it? Thankfully, the, Japanese Grand Prix is soon, and that'll be a good time for the Australians out there and people watching from Asia. So at least that's coming for you guys. James Joe says we don't know the whole story inside, but Alonso must be seriously pissed off by the hierarchy in Alpine to do this to them. Probably, yeah. And you are right to say that. We don't know the whole story yet, so we can't just make assumptions and say things as fact until we actually know what's happened. Lab Gareth has been away on annual leave. Looking forward to your coverage this weekend. Thank you very much for that, Lab. Sparky Pizza Schumacher is really a rookie in ways. Mazepin or Mazepam as a teammate did not help. He never knew how much to push. He just assumed Haas was total trash, so their time sucked. Sparky Pizza's not a world champion, but a Daniel Ricciardo career path. I think when I said Ricciardo, I think that's probably the absolute maximum I think Mick could probably get out of his F1 career. I don't think it's a case of like with like Daniel Ricciardo. Like Ricciardo's had a great career, but I think we would all agree that Ricciardo could have had an even better career had he had better cars to drive. With Mick, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think, to be honest, he'd be lucky to be racing for a team like Ricciardo did for Red Bull at some point in his career. Lab Chris says, I think Mick won't remain in F1 for much more than a couple years. Josiah says, honestly, Mick sucks and he's only getting slack because of his last name. G Walker says, Mick is doubtful of being world champion, depending on the team for sure, but the teams are not falling over each other to grab Mick. Exactly. He hasn't had those results yet that have been like, wow, we need to get this guy in our team. He just hasn't had that. Paul James Squibb says, so far, I don't rate Mick very highly, middle of the pack at best, but he might surprise me as he grows into F1, especially if he gets into a competitive car. There are better young drivers on the grid. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I kind of said it at the end of that recording or the end of the topic I did. I think the best he can be is like an upper midfield driver that if he does get into a top team, maybe could grab a race win or two. But like I said, I think he's more likely to have a career like a Valtteri Bottas or a Pierre Gasly rather than like a Carlos Sainz or a Lando Norris. Rook says, if Ricciardo doesn't have a seat next year, I want him to go after the Triple Crown, because if they get rid of Monaco, he could be one of the last to do so. Yeah, What's the Triple Crown again? Le Mans, 24-hour, Indy 500, Monaco. Yeah. I would not be surprised if he went to IndyCar next year. Because I think you've got, was it Will Power, who's Australian, who races in IndyCar? Isn't Scott McLaughlin? Isn't he from New Zealand? Which is obviously, right next to Australia. So, there is history of people from, that part of the world going IndyCar. Thanks, Chazza. No problem. Good morning to Brabham. BB says Alpine had one seat and two drivers for that seat in 2021. They should have chosen one driver and let the other go. Yeah, maybe that could have made things more simple for them. But to be honest, from Alpine's point of view, I think what they tried to do was probably something I would have tried to have done, which is keep hold of both so they could have the maximum amount of good options available for the seats of their cars. So I think what they tried to do was good, maybe a bit risky, but still good. But I think, guys, I'm going to bring the stream to an end because I've been live for an hour and 45 minutes. So I think, I'll bring the stream to an end. For anyone who's just joined, especially couple people from Australia, again, don't worry about stuff you've missed in the stream because the main topic of tonight's stream, the Oscar Piastri stuff, I am going to upload that topic that I recorded. I'm going to upload that tomorrow at 6 p.m. UK time. So if you are from Asia or Australia, then just check it out tomorrow whenever you can, whenever it's a good time for you. But yeah, that's it for tonight's stream. Thank you guys for coming along for tonight. And yeah, tomorrow will be the Oscar Piastri McLaren Alpine Saga video that I did in this stream, uploaded for people obviously that didn't watch the stream or couldn't watch. And then Thursday Belgian Grand Prix preview at 6 p.m. I will, by the way, on my community tab, I will post on Thursday morning the full schedule in writing so you guys can look at it and be able to know when I'm going live, rather than having to hear me say it all the time. But I'll say it again, quick. So, Belgian Grand Prix preview Thursday night, 6 p.m. UK time. And then 6 p.m. UK time on Friday night, I'll be going live for the Belgian Grand Prix preview, a qualifying preview show. And then I'm live from 11:45 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, 11:45 a.m. till 1 p.m. for practice 3. And then 1 till 3 p.m. for build up to qualifying. And then 3 till 4:30 p.m. 3 till 4 p.m. to qualify for qualifying, and then half an hour after for the qualifying reaction. And then on Sunday, I'll be live from 12 p.m. till 5 p.m. UK time, 12 till 1:30 for the for the build up to the race. 1:30 till 4 p.m. UK time will be the race watch along itself. The race begins at 2 p.m. UK time, and then for about an hour after the race finishes, so from 4 till 5 p.m, I will be doing a race reaction. So make sure to come along to all of that stuff, guys. And also on Monday, I will probably go live with a reaction, or not a reaction, but probably getting a bit more into any incidents or stuff that happened during the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. So that's probably going to happen as well. So yeah, plenty of stuff coming your way, guys, for the rest of this week. And obviously the week after, with it being a race the week after and the week after that. So yeah, good. There is plenty heading your way and my way as well, because I have missed Formula 1, honestly, quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. But yeah, thanks for coming along tonight. For anyone watching, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for all that content coming up. But for anyone watching as well, don't forget to smash the like button if you haven't already, to help the channel grow. And as well, don't forget to share this video and channel everywhere you can. And if you haven't already, in the description, there's 3 videos that you can check out if you haven't checked any of them out yet. My Carlos Sainz video about why he's not an elite F1 driver, and my video about why Daniel Ricciardo has only himself to blame for his problems at McLaren, and why Lando Norris will not have the F1 career you think he will. Those videos in the description, or I'm sure Rook will be posting the links to them in the chat probably as well. Again, if you have not watched them so far, then make sure to go and check those out. As well, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5, and don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description, guys. But until my next stream at 6 p.m. on Thursday for the Belgian Grand Prix preview, the return of Formula 1 in 2022. It has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.